I was wandering around in the last few hours of Gen Con trying to see as much as I could before the lights went out. Gen Con always has so many new games to check out, amazing people to meet, and fantastic art everywhere. And it can be, no, it is completely overwhelming. But just when I was about to leave the expo hall with what remained of my sanity, I stumbled on the Nutheads booth. Now I almost passed it by because their whole line of games seemed to be aimed at kids, but then I saw this guy demoing a chess variant that I had never seen before. And after about 20 seconds of watching him, I knew that I had to share this game with you. Let's make it hot. Welcome to Board Game Nation. My name is Gary Blevins. Thank you so much for watching. If you're already a member of the nation, thank you for subscribing and welcome back. If not, here you'll find great content about tabletop games, unboxings, how to play, strategies, and even some interviews with the people shaping our community. If that interests you, take a second, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so that you never miss a thing. Thanks. First, we have to figure out how to say it. The words are actually in Esperanto and it means peace chess. The proper pronunciation is, and I hope I get this right, Paco Sako. But I think the makers got tired of correcting people, so the common pronunciation now is just Paco Sako. This game was created a few years ago by Felix Albers, and it's been bouncing around Europe and building in popularity. Felix recently made a deal with Nutheads to bring the game to North America, and it made its big debut in August at Gen Con in 2022. While I was standing there, they sold the last sealed copy, and then immediately sold the demo that Felix had been using for the past 4 days. Now, I spoke with him and Nuthead Games, and they graciously agreed to send me a fresh copy to share with you. Thank you very much. Before we dive into the box, a quick overview of the game. Paco Sako is a variant of chess for 2 players, ages 6 and up, and plays in 10 to 30 minutes. The setup is exactly the same as regular chess, and all the pieces have the same movement capabilities, but here's the twist. As the name Paco Sako, or peace chess, might imply, no piece ever leaves the board. Rather, when a piece moves into a square occupied by an enemy piece, where it would normally capture, those 2 pieces merge and create a union. The newly combined piece can be moved by either player on their turn as their original piece would have moved. Through the course of the game, the pieces can dance into and out of these unions with some wild combinations. In the end, the game's objective is to be the first to create a union with the opposing king. Wait, what? Don't worry, it isn't nearly as complicated as it sounds, but more on the rules and examples in just a minute. First, let's get down to the table and see what comes inside Paco Sako. Looks like we start with a board that is 4-fold. Printed on the back, that's fun. So we have that, which is of course just a regular chessboard. But it's got the logos on it. So I guess that's kind of nice. Bag of pieces, we're going to look at those in more detail in a second. And the rules. Holy cow. I promise the game is not this complicated. In case you don't know how to play chess, here are all the moves for the way chess pieces move, so I guess that's important. So it has to be the rules for chess and for Paco Sako. So yeah, that makes sense. And that is it. Okay, so let's look at the pieces. All right, first comes with a really nice bag. That's Crown Royal quality right there. All right. So the thing that's fun about the design of these is how they fit together, right? So they're designed to dance, right? To make this union and kind of partner up, which is very cool. And nicely makes a little yin-yang symbol on the bottom there, which I don't think is an accident. There's a whole philosophy that goes with this game you can check out on their website. Let's see what it looks like set up. Ah! Interesting, right? Now, before we go any further, I need to get a few games of this under my belt and see if everyone out there thinks it's as cool as I think it is. I'm gonna pop over and see my friends at Board to Beers and break out the game in a room full of gamers and see what they think. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Wow, that went really well. I played a bunch of games with a bunch of different people, and we lucked out. We dropped into Board to Beers on Sunday afternoon, and their weekly Go Club was in full swing. Turns out there's a lot of crossover between Go players and chess players. Who knew? Plus, there was a bunch of casual game players there, so this was a really great test. But before I tell you more about what they thought, you need a better explanation of the rules for the game. As I said, the game sets up just like a regular game of chess, and all the pieces have the same basic movement abilities. Bishops on the diagonals, rooks moving in straight lines, knights jumping all over the place, etc. Simple enough, but that's just about where the similarities end. The biggest difference is that no piece ever leaves the board. When a piece moves to capture another, it doesn't. Instead, the two pieces form a union. These pieces are beautiful and have got a great weight and feel to them, but more important for the game, they're built to fit easily together with any piece from the opposing color. Once in a union, on their turn, each player can move the union using the movement capabilities of their original piece. So when a white bishop and a black knight form a union, the white player can move the whole union anywhere that they can move that bishop. Then, on black's turn, they can move the knight anywhere that the knight could move, and bring the bishop along for the ride. All the possible unions are interesting, but this one really stood out to me. Here's why. Did you notice that when the knight moved the union with the bishop, it changed the color square the bishop resides on? It's now a dark squared bishop. Yeah, I missed it too. I was actually in the middle of one of my first games, and I found myself just staring at the board for longer than I'd care to admit because I couldn't find my light squared bishop. Turns out, my opponent had moved it for me. It's important to keep in mind that a union can't be broken without the help of another friendly piece, so that knight can't just jump out on its own. It needs someone else to cut in. Here's how that works. If the black player wanted to, they could use this pawn to free up the knight. The pawn moves into the space, and now the knight must make any legal move. The knight ends the turn rolling solo again, and now the pawn is in the union with the bishop. This is called the dance. I do like a good dance. La dee 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 dee. Whoa! Now this next bit is where the real genius of this game becomes clear. Ah, shit. When leaving a union, a legal move includes dancing into another union. So the pawn pushes into that bishop-knight union. The knight has to make a legal move. It can jump out on its own and ride solo again, or it can choose to dance into the union with the queen and the black rook. The black rook now has to make its own legal move. It's important to note that if a piece doesn't have an available legal move, then you can't break the union. Understanding how to use this dance ability in Paco Sako is the key to any kind of successful strategy, because unless something weird happens, forming a union with the opposing king is almost always going to involve some series of dance moves. Here's how one of the games that I played at Board to Beers ended. It was white to move and I was playing black. The pawn pushed into the knight, which danced into the bishop, which freed up bishop to make a union with my king. A winning combo that started with a pawn move on the other side of the board. I know, right? It's kind of nutty, but once you get a handle on the mechanic, it's really engaging. I know my fellow nerds are wondering about some of the other chess rules. I'll leave the detailed explanations to the rulebook, but here are the highlights. Announcing check on an opposing king is now only optional, though it's helpful as everyone's still learning the game. Oh, and in this game, check is called Sako, and checkmate is called Paco. So the goal of the game is to put the king at peace. Next, castling. Exactly the same as regular chess, but as the board gets complicated, it might be tricky to see if a Sako exists in any of the relevant spaces. Something to keep an eye out for. En passant works the same as normal, except rather than removing the pawn as captured, you pull it back with you. Also, if the pawn is in a union and it moves 2 spaces, then the opposing player chooses to move into that union using the en passant rule. The pawn still moves back, but the newly freed piece moves on from the second space rather than moving back and then moving. It's also fun to note that if for whatever reason a pawn makes it back to its own starting rank or to its very back rank, it can move 2 spaces again as if it had never moved, and the en passant rules still apply. Pawn promotion happens as normal, even if the promotion happens with or into a union. But here's one crazy thing that can happen in Paco Sako, but never in a traditional game of chess. You can make a move that promotes your opponent's pawn. If one of your pieces is in a union with an opposing pawn, and you move that pawn to your back row, the opposing pawn is immediately promoted to the piece of your opponent's choosing, and they can use it on their next turn. There might be some tactical situation where it'd be a good idea to do this on purpose, but we didn't come across it in any of the games that we played. One last thing, more of a strategic note, and it's something that I didn't really think about until it came up. Your king has no offensive capabilities. It can't capture or even dance with any opposing piece, not even through some kind of crazy chain reaction move. It's just something to keep in mind as you're moving through your game. And the game ends when a king is at peace or in Paco. The rules that I have don't say anything about how a game might end in a draw, but I'm guessing that a popular house rule might be to keep that same 3-move repeat rule that's in traditional chess. I would also assume that a game ends in a draw if you look down and every piece that isn't a king is in a union. I'm not sure how often that would happen, but it seems like it might be a possibility. Maybe somebody knows more about it that can clarify in the comments. And that's it. Everything you need to know to play Paco Sako. Okay, so what did they think of Paco Sako with Board de Beers? Well, we have to start by talking about the actual physical product. These pieces are gorgeous. These pieces are as well produced as any tournament chess set that I've ever played with, and they absolutely sell this game. In fact, while I was there, I never had to invite people to play. I just set up the board with these pieces and people just walked right up. Most people walked up saying something like, well, that's an interesting looking chess set, which of course just triggered the explanation for Paco Sako. And once they learned more about it, they wanted to play it. And once they played it, they wanted to play it again. There were lots of people there who wanted to play that didn't get a chance. Several of them asked when I'd be back so that they could give it a try. I was planning to be there for an hour, hour and a half tops. I was there for 4 hours and the game never sat still. People couldn't get enough of it. As I said, the pieces definitely feel really good in the hand, but more importantly for the game, they fit really smoothly together on the table. Though it's definitely easier to use 2 hands when you're moving the pieces in and out of the unions, which is something that maybe won't come all that easily to the tournament chess players that are going to give this a try. The travel bag for the pieces that the game comes with has this really nice logo on it, and it's got a really velvety feel. It's like a Crown Royal bag, but made with like a soft, velvety kind of fleece material. It's so nice. Oh, sorry. The board that comes in the box is a cardboard 4-fold board with printing and logos on both sides. And it's nice for what it is, but I'm guessing that most people that would buy a game like this or get it as a gift probably have a stack of chessboards in the corner or have even built tables that have chessboards built in them that are much nicer. The board that included is okay, but it's likely to stay in the box. The last component that came in the box was this rule book. Now, anybody that knows me or has watched any of my videos knows that I'm kind of a graphic design snob, so this is probably a bigger deal to me than it is to most humans. But the design for the rule book needs some help. I understand that they couldn't just assume that everyone that opened the box would know how to play chess. So they had to include the complete rules for chess, but man, there had to be a better way. It's really busy, it's got very small font, there's some typos, the examples are hard to follow, and the layout makes me feel like I'm lost on some desert road trying to find my way home using some kind of old school folding map. Hello? Hello? Is Paco? The good news is that despite how complex the rulebook makes it seem, and assuming that you already know how to play chess, the rules for Paco Sako are really pretty simple. So after your first or second game, you're really not going to need to look at this again. Good. This isn't the worst rulebook that we've ever seen, and I won't name any names, but I understand that there's some very cool boards, redesigned rulebooks, and even different colored pieces that are available in Europe. But it doesn't look like any of those have made it stateside just yet. Now let me say that those things are cool, but not having them wouldn't stop me from enjoying this game, and neither would a wonky rulebook or a plainish looking board. And here's why. Put simply, this game is a triumph. Now, we all love chess, and we will continue to love chess, and we've all seen variants that have tried to improve chess or spice it up with cards or weird modifications. This is not that. This is something completely different. This is a game that uses the base chess mechanics and turns it into a whole new thing. Here's the big question. Is it better than traditional chess? Let's think in terms of playability. Most traditional chess games end in some kind of resignation because a player gets too far behind in material in the earlier mid-game to have any meaningful chance of winning. Players that get behind find themselves brooding over the board forever with this deeply furrowed brow until finally they concede that there's no way they can win from here, and then they quit with an "aw, that sucks." Well, it doesn't really happen with Paco Sako. No one ever really gets behind because no piece ever leaves the board. The unions that are formed still serve both sides, so you're never really out of the game until the very last move. In fact, in nearly every game that I played, both sides were right on the edge of winning when the game ended. The seemingly infinite number of combinations of moves for both sides creates this wildly fluid and dynamic gameplay experience. I found that as my games moved into what my chess instincts were telling me looked like the mid-game, I was really in the end game. Trying to see what options are available for the offense and the defense became this really challenging and endlessly engaging puzzle. It's really beyond the if I go here, he goes there kind of lines of thinking. Because of this ability to create and move through unions with tempo and move multiple pieces on the same turn, each move by either player opens up a whole new series of possibilities. What really struck me about Paco Sako was this. Whether I won or lost, the winning combinations always somehow seem to be hidden and then suddenly obvious. I think it's that aha moment of finding the solution to this deep puzzle, or even seeing your opponent find it and point it out to you, that created this really strong hook for me. Who should buy this game? Well, to state the obvious, Paco Sako is a fantastic gift for any chess players in your life, but more than that, is a great gift for people who love puzzles, casual games, or even big, giant, crunchy strategy games. However, let me also say that you don't have to be any kind of super skilled chess player or a big strategy game player to enjoy Paco Sako. It helps to be comfortable with how all the pieces move, but beyond that, being a chess rookie could not matter less. And the flip side's also true. Just because you're a big chess nut doesn't mean that you're going to be instantly brilliant at this game. This is a whole different thing. Paco Sako requires players to use a different part of the brain than the chess we grew up on. But is it better than the original chess? Boy, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to leave it to you. But I will say that it's still new, and we need to see how it stands up over time. But I can say this for certain. If you ask me now, would I rather spend a few hours this weekend playing chess or playing Paco Sako? We're going to be playing Paco Sako. There's no doubt about it. The tagline on the side of the box says, embrace the next move. I'm down. Bring it in. Our friends at Nuthead Games have generously offered the citizens of Board Game Nation a limited time 20% discount on Paco Sako. Go to nutheads.com, that's nutheads with 2 T's, and include the discount code PACO20 at checkout. No kickback from me this time. I just think this is a great game that should be getting way more attention than it's gotten so far. I hope that you'll check it out. Come back and tell me whether or not you thought it was better than the original chess. Well, you can take it over to Board to Beers and you'll find loads of people wanting to play with you. For more fun unboxing and review videos, right this way. For casual games, here you go. For our latest bit of mayhem, here's your link. And if you're ready to join Board Game Nation, click here to subscribe. My name is Gary Blevins. This is Board Game Nation. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.